Hi, this is Jim, the Iowa Tesla Guy. Welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we're going to talk about the number one question that people have asked me since having a YouTube channel is, why did you pick a Model Y over a 3 or an S or an X? Well, the short answer is that the Model Y worked out best for me. And it worked out best for my situation, and your situation is likely going to be different, and you may come to different conclusions on your own. So I'm going to walk you through the things that were important to me and what led me to the Y, and perhaps you'll find this interesting if you're looking to purchase a Tesla, and helping you maybe make different choices from where I'm at, and you might find yourself wanting something other than a Y, like an S or an X or a Model 3. They're all good choices, but they have different pros and cons, and they are tailored to different types of people. So let's just get into it. Now, the way that I look at my decision to buy a Y comes with basically a funnel, where the funnel at the top is all of the options available to me, and as I come down with my criteria on what I think is important to me, different models fall out of the funnel, and I hopefully left with a single option at the bottom. And I went through that analysis, and that option that came out the bottom was a Y. I actually have a confession to make. About a month before I actually ordered the Y, I was going to buy a 3. And the reason why I wanted to buy a 3 is because, and I still believe this to this day, is I think the 3 actually looks better than the Y. But why did I pick a Y? Well, let me walk you through my thought process, and perhaps you'll have a similar thought process of your own. For me, the number one, the very first step in this process was price. A lot of people think Teslas are super expensive. They can be super expensive. You're going to pay $130,000 for a new Model S Plaid, and not many people, including myself, have $130,000 laying around. But actually, Teslas can be approachable. You can get for $40,000 a base Model 3. And so for me, cost was a big thing. And I knew I wanted certain features, which I'll get to in a second. But for me, cost was the first deciding factor. So when we're looking at costs, let's actually compare what we're looking at apples to apples. Now, the data that I'm going to show you is based on September 2021 numbers, and Tesla has been all over the map as far as raising prices, lowering prices, mostly raising prices due to supply chain issues and because they can. And so these prices are as of right now. And I spec'd all of the 4 models out as if it is my car that I have now, which is red, standard wheels, and white interior with full self-driving purchased. So starting at the top of the list, which would be the Model X, if I were to spec out today a refreshed Model X with all of those conditions, we're looking at $114,500. Ouch. That's a lot of money. Coming in second is the Model S. Same specifications, not Plaid, just a standard all-wheel drive, long-range Model S. We are looking at $104,500, so $10,000 less than the X. Still over $100,000 for this car. Jumping down to the Model Y is actually quite a big jump. And going from the Model Y with all-wheel drive, red, white interior, and full self-driving at $10,000 today, you're looking at a total out-the-door price of $66,900. And then with the Model 3 all-wheel drive, all the same specs, you're looking at $62,900. So there's not a big difference between the 3 and the Y, and then there's a huge difference to an S, and then there's a modest difference to an X. So the very first thing I needed to ask myself, which is, how much car do I want to pay for? How much car can I afford? And for me, and you may be different, for me, I had to immediately take out of consideration the S and the X. Despite anything else I might feel about it, it just wasn't in my price range. So that's why I didn't go with either of those two. So it leaves me the 3 and the Y to pick from. So what is my next criteria for selecting a car? Now, after cost, the next most important thing to me was all-wheel drive. And all-wheel drive is important because I live in a just outside of town in Iowa, and the winters can be rather harsh. I actually lived through a winter with a lot of snow with the Model Y. It's fantastic, and I knew I needed an all-wheel drive vehicle because my previous car was terrible in the snow. So having a Model Y versus a Model 3, I wanted to look at only the all-wheel drive option. So fortunately for me, Tesla offers the 3 and the Y in all-wheel drive. So for there, the Y and 3 both had me covered. Now, in making the decision, if I went on looks alone, I would have bought that 3. But I actually had to take into consideration how I plan to use the car. And one of the things that I wanted to do with this car is I wanted this to be the family car. I came from a 2012 Mini Cooper S. It is a very small car. It was not the family car. My wife's car, which is a Ford Escape, is the family car, and we took that everywhere. When we needed to take my son out to college in Colorado, we would put all his stuff in the Ford and we'd take the Ford. I didn't want us to take the Ford anymore. I wanted to take the Tesla. So between the 3 and the Y, I just looked at the overall cargo space, and let me show you the differences, because the Y is actually a bigger car, and it is bigger virtually in all respects, both physically and also cargo space. And the cargo space breakdown goes like this. If you fold down the back seats in both the 3 and the Y, and you take into account the lower back trunk and the front trunk, the Model 3 has 43.6 cubic feet of space compared to the Model Y, which has 76.2 cubic feet of space. That is a tremendous difference. And for me, in knowing that I needed to haul a lot of stuff, go on road trips with upwards of my wife and 2 kids and all the luggage, I knew that I was going to need that extra space, and that put a pro in the Y option. But the 3 wasn't completely ruled out at that point. I thought I might be able to make that work. Now, this next one might surprise you, but after cargo space and storage, for me, ride position was important to me. Now, I'm 51 years old. I'm in pretty good shape now, but I hold on to my cars for a long time, and I hope to actually have my Model Y upwards of me approaching 60 years old, and I have no idea how nimble I'm going to be at 60, and I probably will appreciate the higher seating position, which is about 5 inches higher, and the higher door position as far as getting out of the car. When you're riding in a Y, it does feel noticeably higher. Those few inches actually make a difference. So ride position was important to me. So that would put a pro in the Y over the 3. Believe it or not, down 5th on my list is range. It's actually pretty high on a lot of people's list. It may be high on your list, but for me, range wasn't as big of a deal as those other 3 things. In fact, the Model Y compared to the refreshed S, the X, and the 3 actually has the lowest amount of range for a long range vehicle. Now, with the all-wheel drive, I get the long range, so I get the bigger battery. That's great. But my commute back and forth to work, I do a maximum of about 20 miles of driving on a typical weekday. But if we're going on a road trip cross country, which I have done many road trips, you can check out my other videos, I wanted to make sure that I had enough range to get to where I needed to go. So the long range for me worked out really well. And so based on 326 miles of estimated range, which by the way it doesn't get 326. Compared to the Model 3, which has 353, and by the way, it doesn't get 353 either. It's like any other gas car that you might have where they put the sticker on it that says you get, said my wife's Ford Escape actually gets 26 miles to the gallon, 28 miles to the gallon highway. We have yet to get 22 miles to the gallon in that thing. It's just based on how the actual recordings or how they do the testing, and it doesn't actually really apply to real world. But real world, both those cars are actually fine for my situation. After that, the list actually gets pretty short. And if I had all the money to spend, I would buy an S today. But back when I bought my Y, I had no desire to get an S or an X. I actually preferred the minimalist interior design of the 3 and the Y. I liked the widescreen, I liked the no dash cluster, I actually liked all of that. I got the white seats because I wanted the inside to look like a spaceship, and it does. It's catchy, a lot of people talk about it. The X and the S still have a cluster. There's still switches. It feels a lot like a regular car, and I coming from a Mini Cooper that has everything on switches, that's just kind of the design style. I wanted to go completely the opposite direction and go with something that was very minimalist. Now today, with the Refresh S and the Refreshed X, that concern is out. And if I had money to spend, as I said before, I would have bought today a Model S because it has that similar, same minimalist interior that I see today right now on my Model Y. So that's how I arrived at a Model Y. These are my reasons. This is what I was looking for. Your reasons are likely different than mine, but I'm hopeful that this video you'll find helpful and it will allow you to take into some things maybe you didn't consider, or maybe reaffirm that that's exactly the purchase that you want to make. So hopefully you liked this video. If you did, please hit that like button. Even better, hit that subscribe button. Subscriptions really help drive the channel, and tap that notify button to get notified when new videos come out, and new videos come out all the time. If you decide after this video that you want to make a purchase of a Tesla of your own, I would highly encourage you to do that if an EV is in your future. Make sure you don't miss out on those 1,000 free supercharger miles. And in order to get those 1,000 free supercharger miles, you need to use a referral code at the time of purchase. You can use any code that you want, but if you want to use mine, that would be fantastic. So until the next video, we'll catch you later.